On the last night of his life, an old watchmaker called his grandson to his bedside, pressed a pocket watch into his hands, and whispered, "This is worth more than everything else in the shop." The grandson looked down. The watch was scratched, dull, and dead. It had not ticked in 50 years. 3 appraisers would later call it worthless. Every one of them was wrong. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. If I asked you where your money went last month, you could probably tell me. But if I asked where your hours went, could you? The scrolling, the postponing, the endless "I will start on Monday." We guard our wallets like treasure and spill our time like water. Today's story is about a young man who thought he had inherited a broken watch and discovered he had inherited the most valuable lesson a human being can receive. Stay with this story until the end, because the secret inside that watch is going to follow you around for the rest of the week. I promise you that. Thomas Hale was 26 years old and going nowhere in the most comfortable way possible. He had a small apartment, a job he tolerated, and a phone that ate 4 hours of his life every single day. He was not lazy, exactly. He was something more dangerous. He was waiting to feel ready, waiting for the right moment, waiting for some future version of himself to show up and start living. His grandfather, Eldon Hale, was the opposite. Eldon ran a tiny watch repair shop on Corver Street for 51 years. A narrow room that smelled of brass and oil, walls ticking with 100 small heartbeats. People brought Eldon watches from 3 towns away, not because he was fast, but because he was exact. He used to say, "A watch does not forgive. Neither does a life." Thomas loved his grandfather, but never really listened to him. Young people rarely do. He visited the shop, drank the old man's terrible coffee, and checked his phone under the table while Eldon talked about escapements and mainsprings and time. Always time. Then, one November evening, the call came. Eldon was dying. Thomas sat by the bed that final night, and that is when it happened. The old man reached under his pillow with shaking hands and brought out a pocket watch. Brass case, worn smooth, glass scratched into fog, hands frozen at 17 minutes past 4. Eldon pressed it into his grandson's palm and closed the boy's fingers over it. Then he said the sentence that would haunt Thomas for months. "Everything in the shop. Sell if you want. But this one is worth more than all of it. Promise me you will not sell it until you understand it." Thomas promised. People promise anything to the dying. By morning, Eldon was gone. Now, Thomas had a plan, and the plan was simple. Sell the shop, sell the inventory, take the money, and keep waiting for his life in slightly more comfort. But there was the watch. And there was the promise. Do not sell it until you understand it. Understand what? It was a dead watch. Still, worth more than everything in the shop. Those were the old man's words. So Thomas did the logical thing. He took it to an appraiser in the city. The first appraiser turned it over twice and shrugged. "Common brass case," he said. "Movement is seized. $40 on a good day." The second appraiser was kinder, but no different. "Sentimental value only, son." The third, an expert in rare timepieces, examined it under a loupe for 10 full minutes, and Thomas felt his heart climb. Then the man set it down and said, "I am sorry. There is nothing special here, except one strange thing. Someone has opened and serviced this watch regularly for decades. Someone maintained a watch they never allowed to run. Who does that? Who does that?" Hold that question. Because the answer is the whole story. Thomas went back to the shop, annoyed, half convinced the old man's mind had slipped at the end. He decided to open the watch himself, strip it, and prove there was nothing inside. He sat at his grandfather's workbench, put on his grandfather's loupe, and realized within 4 minutes that he had absolutely no idea what he was doing. And here is where the story turns, quietly, the way real turns happen. Because on the bench, in a drawer worn smooth by 50 years of the same hand, Thomas found his grandfather's notebooks. Dozens of them. Every repair Eldon had ever done, drawn by hand, step by step, in careful pencil. A lifetime of skill, sitting in a drawer, waiting. Thomas told himself he would learn just enough to open one dead watch. That was the lie that saved his life. He came back the next evening. And the next. The notebooks pulled him in like a current. Weeks passed. His thumbs stopped scrolling and started holding tweezers. He ruined things. He started over. For the first time in years, Thomas felt hours pass without wishing they would. Somewhere in month 3, without noticing the exact day it happened, Thomas stopped waiting for his life. He was in it. Finally, one spring night, his hands were ready. He opened the old brass watch, expecting seized rust. What he found stopped his breath. The movement inside was immaculate, cleaned, oiled, perfect, like an engine kept ready for 50 years. This watch was not broken. It had been deliberately stopped and then lovingly maintained in its stillness, decade after decade. The appraiser's question roared back. Who does that? And then Thomas saw it, engraved inside the caseback, in letters so small you needed a watchmaker's eye to find them, which was, of course, the point. A name. Arthur Hale. 2 dates. And beneath them, 1 line. He had time. He thought he had more. Thomas sat very still. Arthur Hale, his grandfather's younger brother. The one nobody talked about. That night, in a box of Eldon's papers, Thomas found the rest. A photograph of 2 young men laughing outside the same shop. And a letter, never sent in his grandfather's handwriting, that put the whole story together. Arthur died at 26. Of fever, fast and unfair. In the spring of the year, the brothers were going to open the shop together. He died at 17 minutes past 4 in the afternoon, and the watch in his pocket, the watch Eldon had built for him as a gift, was stopped at that minute and never allowed to run again. 26. Thomas checked the dates twice. Arthur died at exactly the age Thomas was right now. The unsent letter ended with words that Thomas would keep behind the counter for the rest of his life. Every morning, I wind the shop, and I do not wind you. Your watch keeps the truest time of all. It tells me how much I have, which is only today. People pay me to fix their watches. You, little brother, fixed my life. Now Thomas understood the deathbed promise. Do not sell it until you understand it. The watch was worth more than everything in the shop because everything in the shop only measured time. This one taught the value of it. Thomas never sold the shop. The sign over the door on Corver Street says, Hale and Hale, and if you go there today, you will find a watchmaker in his 30s who does exact work and terrible coffee. On the wall behind the counter, in a small glass case, hangs a brass pocket watch, stopped at 17 minutes past 4. Customers ask if it is broken. Thomas always gives the same answer. No, it is the only one in here that works. And one small thing I kept from you. Every afternoon at 17 minutes past 4, whatever he is doing, Thomas stops. He sits at the old bench, and he lets 1 full minute pass untouched. No phone, no work, nothing. Customers think it is superstition. It is arithmetic. He is counting what he was given. So what does Arthur's watch say to you? First, stop trusting the illusion of more. Arthur had plans, talent, and a partnership starting in the spring. What he did not have was the one thing he was certain of. More time. Nobody is promised the spring. The cruelest trick your mind plays is whispering later, as if later has signed a contract with you. It has not. Second, audit your hours the way you audit your money. You get 24 a day, the same as every genius, every builder, every person you admire. This week, just once, write down where one full day actually goes. Most people never recover from what they see. The scrolling alone is often 2 to 4 hours. That is a lost decade, paid out in tiny invisible installments. Third, you do not find time. You take it. Thomas did not suddenly receive free hours to learn watchmaking. He took them from the phone, from the waiting, from the comfortable nothing. Whatever you keep postponing, the business, the book, the apology, the health, it does not need a better moment. It needs the worst possible version of a start today. Ugly beginnings still beat beautiful intentions, because one day, for every single one of us, the hands stop. Not as a punishment, just as a fact. And the only question that will matter is not how much time we had. It is what we did with the part we were given. So here is my challenge to you tonight. Think of the one thing you have been putting off the longest. Type 1 in the comments if you commit to spending just 1 hour on it this week, and say what it is, because a promise made in public is 10 times harder to break. Type 2 if this story reminded you of someone you lost who ran out of time, and if you feel comfortable, honor them by writing their name. Someone reading it will slow down today because of them. If this story hit you, share it with one person who keeps saying, "I will start on Monday," and press the like button so it reaches more people who are quietly wasting their most valuable inheritance. Subscribe and turn on the bell, because next time I will take you to a foggy harbor town where 40 sailors owed their lives to a bell everyone called defective, and you will never look at your own flaws the same way again. Until then, remember Arthur's watch. You have time. Just never assume you have more.